Good morning to all. I'm Giulia Leghissa from the editorial board of the Build Up portal. For the ones who are attending a Build Up webinar for the first time, welcome. For our returning audience, thank you for renovating your interest. It is a pleasure to host today's new stunning webinar entitled Project Conclusion and Most Important Results for the Promotion of Energy Efficient Building Renovation, which is organized in collaboration with the Stunning Project Consortium. I would like to invite you all to contribute and participate in this webinar. You can ask questions by typing in the box on the right side of the screen. They will be answered at the end after the presentations. You can also contribute to Build Up portal. Build Up is a collaborative platform in the field of energy efficiency in buildings. It is continuously updated and it represents one of the key sources of information on the topic of energy efficiency. You can register and become a member of the community, and you can also upload news, events, present a case study, results from a project, and so on. I would like to invite you all to navigate the portal. In the Learn section, you will find all the podcasts of the past webinars, so it is possible to listen to all the previous presentations. Now, I would like to leave the floor to Karine Lafont-Eloi and Nicolas Peredou from Dowell Management, the project coordinators. They will be doing a short presentation of the project. Then, Stunning Partners will present their main outputs from the project. Please, Karine and Nicolas, we can start the session.
Many thanks, Julia, for the introduction, and good afternoon to all. So I will quickly introduce the speakers and the project. If I can manage my slides to go forward. Okay, so I hope you can all see those slides and hear me correctly. So as I said, I will very briefly introduce our project, Stunning. Then all the project partners will present the work they have done during this project and the key results that came out of this work. And then we have a quick wrap up and some time for the questions at the end. So let's quickly introduce Stunning first. So Stunning is a European funded project. The name stands for Sustainable Business Models for the Deep Renovation of Buildings. So we are a coordination and support action. We started in October 2017 for a 2-year project. So in this project, the objective is twofold. First, to support the acceleration of the renovation and the adoption of new business models for the energy efficient refurbishment of buildings using integrated, adaptable and affordable refurbishment packages, and secondly, to engage with the whole community of stakeholders. So we are 5 partners in this project: us, Dowell Management in France, CSTB in France as well, then RINA Consulting in Italy, Solintel in Spain, and S2I in Germany. So how we approached this project, we started with a review of refurbishment cases and demonstration in Europe, so real cases of renovation, how much they are costed and how they have been financed. Then we identified the barriers that slow down replications, and recommendations on how to overcome them were made. And finally, novel business models were identified and promoted. So in terms of results, this led to the production of a refurbishment packages database, a catalogue of most promising business models, as well as case studies. And then all this produced knowledge is shared with the stakeholder community through a knowledge sharing platform that we call the Renovation Hub. Okay, just a quick overview of the work we've done on refurbishment packages before I leave the floor to the second speaker. So we done a review of existing and also emerging technical solutions for building refurbishment. So we try to have a combination of commercial packages, but also more innovative solutions that have been developed by EU projects. And what we try to put forward in this project is an integrated approach. So we don't look at solutions taken in isolation, but really with an integrated approach, so with a combination of solutions, packages that are implemented together. So then cost-benefit indicators were calculated for those different packages, and they were presented on the Renovation Hub. With regard to the different packages, we have reviews. So as I said, we try to have a mix of different types of solutions. So we have a rather conventional deep refurbishment package, more innovative solutions that are already commercially available, and then solutions that are being developed by EU projects. So here on this slide, you have a rough, a quick overview of the different packages we have studied in the project that are presented on our platform, and soon we will have more projects, more EU-funded projects advertised there. Okay, we'll now give the floor to Haytham Jumni from CSTB, who will present in more details the work that has been done to benchmark refurbishment packages and to calculate the cost-benefit indicators.
Thank you, Karine. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to present to you the work package 3. The work package 3 is the benchmark of refurbishment solution packages and the cost-benefit analysis implemented in the studying project. So what is the main objective of the WP3 packages? So the objective is at first is to collect data on renovation project in Europe in order to construct and to build a database, a global database that inform about the cost and benefit of each renovation project by identifying the cost of each solution or the cost of work packages, but all this cost and all the energy gain was connected to the specificity of each building. So the idea is to use this database, and in our case we have selected more than 350 cases from demonstration sites from European Union project, and the final objective is to use the database about what we have collected data on technology, on renovation result coming from energy gain in order to obtain the final and to estimate the final profitability of each project during all life cost cycle of each specific project in the database. So the global philosophy of this work package is represented in this figure. So if we start from the left to the right, there is 3 main category of input data. The first one is data concerning characteristic of each specific building that we have selected in our database. So we have different variables concerning each building of each renovation project in Europe. And then we have a second category of input variable, which concerns all the specificity of each solution or each package solution for each renovation project. And we have what we call the economic factors or macroeconomic factors and it's concerned for each specific project the all macroeconomic variables that could affect the rentability of each project. For example, there is the direct financial support, the annual monetary energy save, the annual monetary energy save according to each specific price of each specific energy sources, the inflation rate, the cost of each packages. And then when we have obtained all this information about the three categories of database, we use our cost benefit analysis in order to obtain the final rentability. And this final rentability was calculated for two scenarios, for 20 years and for 30 years for each project. We have added a second analysis. It concerns all the risk for each specific project. So we try to study after the estimation of the rentability for 20 and for 30 years of each project. We try to study and to determine which variable could affect more than others this profitability for each project. So this is an example of illustration for concrete cases. So this case is a single house with the different renovation measures. So there is floor and roof insulation, internal wall insulation, window replacement, PV replacement, and biomass boiler replacement. In this case, we have on the left side the primary energy before renovation packages implementation and after. So the differences is used to estimate the energy gain, annual energy gain, and there to estimate monetary energy gain provided by this annual energy gain. So the energy price is used, and the discount rate and the life cycle was the economic factor, and the total energy retrofit cost, which is the investment cost, is in this case 27,000. And what we try to estimate, and the final result is represented at the right side. When we obtain, in this case, we need 15 years of discounted payback time. The net present value estimated for 20 years is 6,900 euro, and the internal rate of return for 20 years is 6.7% for this project. This is an example about what we can obtain by this analysis. So this profitability was obtained by integrating all the variables concerning project, renovation packages, and all the specificity concerning the building, and all the variable and specificity concerning the global economy. So in parallel with the developing of the cost-benefit analysis methodology, we have developed a tool using this technical and economic model. So it was an Excel file tool, and this Excel file tool use all the variables that I have presented before. So the variable concerning the building, variable concerning each performance and cost of solution and packages, and variable concerning the economic specificity that could affect the final result. So in this table at the left, we have all the characteristic, what we call microeconomic variables. So the characteristic of the building of each solution, the performance of the building, the performance of the solution, the cost of each solution. And in the same table on the right side, we have the macroeconomic variable. So we have the discount rate, we have the price of energy, and we have the depreciation rate of the performance of each solution or each packages. So we implement this tool in order to obtain
Right, okay, I think we unfortunately lost Haytham. Haytham, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you, but there is a
You're back.
problem. I
Okay.
cannot move. I cannot move from the. Yes, now it's good. So this is the result. For example, we can notice, for example, for the label G, in this case, the most consumer energy consumer house, the feedback or the payback period is less than the other because of this initial bad performance, lower performance. And we consider that the second one, it's label F, for example, we can observe that we obtain after the first 15 years, we obtain the beginning of the feedback for the label F, for example. And for the other cases, the payback period is longer because of the energy, the initial energy performance is better than the two first one, and the cost is higher in order to obtain a similar energy performance. So in this case, we try to compare the final profitability for one specific building, which is individual housing, for 20 years and for 30 years. What we can observe that 70% of the net present value, which is the profitability, are positive after 20 years in our database. It concerns 300 of projects. And if we try to implement the same analysis, the cost-benefit analysis, with the same methodology that I have explained before, for 20 years, 90% of the net present value are positive. For 90% of projects have a net present value positive after 30 years. So this result shows that 10 years more, if we add 10 years of analysis, we have 10 years of more energy gain, and this provides 10 years of more energy monetary gain, and this monetary gain have an important impact in the net present value, because another 25% of renovation project become positive in this case. This result is a complementary result of the cost-benefit analysis. It concerns all the risk for investment analysis. So in this case, we try to understand after the estimation of the final profitability, the final net present value, we try to analyze which variable could affect more than other variables the final profitability of each project. So in this case, if we start from the top, the most important variable that could affect the profitability is the energy gain, then the investment cost, then the energy price, and then the discount rate. So the discount rate is a rate that we integrate in the analysis in order to take in the estimation, the economic and financial estimation, the impact of time and the impact of risk for the 20 or 30 years of estimation, the future risk of that could impact the profitability. So in this case, we observe that the energy gain could impact positively the result, the final result, but in contrast of the investment cost is the second variable that could affect the final result, but it affects the final result by its low, it have a negative impact on the profitability because the investment cost, higher is the investment cost and less we have positive result in the profitability of each project. The third one is the energy price. He impact at the same time the profitability of project, and he is linked with the energy gain because the price could have an impact if the inflation rate of the price is important. The energy, the monetary gain provided by energy gain is important in this case. The last one is the discount rate. So all these four variables have an important impact and could affect the final result of cost-benefit analysis. And in these four variables, there is two variables that having the most important impact in the four variables. These two variables are energy gain and investment cost. We try to identify and to make the same analysis on the tertiary sector. So what we observe in contrast of the previous analysis on the residential sector, we notice that for the tertiary sector, only 10% of the net present value are positive. But we observed also that all these projects are implemented. So we consider that the profitability of this kind of investment in tertiary sector renovations, the profitability is not provided only by energy gain, because in this case, only 10% of the project are positive and have a positive profitability. So we suppose that because of despite this negative net present value, which concern 90% of the project was implemented. So we suppose that an important part of the probability was provided by the rise in the rental price of this building, or in the rise of the selling price of this project. So if we observe the result of the total cost and the total gain, and the differences between what we have observed and about the benchmarking of each renovation packages, we observe that the single operation project, for example, the total cost is higher than for two solutions, but the total gain is not the same. When we look at the three solutions, for example, the total gain is more important than two solutions, but the total cost is higher. So since two solutions, higher is the number of solutions, higher is the cost, and higher is the energy gain. And in final, for example, for 5 solutions, it's the higher cost for these packages, but we have the most important gain in this case. So the conclusion is, for what we have observed on the 372 renovation cases in our database, the more rentable, the more profitable renovation packages was the packages of 5 solutions, but it was also the most cost one. If we try to analyze the rentability, the profitability of each project and the payback period, it was in the line of what we have observed on the investment cost and energy gain. So the internal return rate, which is the rate of profitability in our economic value, all the project was rentable in our case. There is the same rentability between profitability between single solution and the 3 solution. It's around 5%. But the most important one is the package with 5 solution with 8% of internal return rate, and with the low
Okay, thanks, Etam, for this rather extensive presentation of the work. So as you could see, renovation and even deep renovation is profitable in the long term, but renovation is not happening at the required pace, and it still stagnates at 1% today instead of the 3% that are required to decarbonize the whole building stock by 2050. And also what we could see in the work that has just been presented is that most of the renovations that have been carried out are shallow renovation and not deep renovation. So this work showed that the barriers are not technical, not economical, but that they are related to other types of barriers and that work that Hugo will now present you. So Hugo Grasset from Solitel will present the work he done in Stunning.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Basically, the way that we separated the work for this work package was a preliminary analysis of the Trans-Am barriers, then a contextualization of those barriers according to criteria such as building typology, geography, and country level specificities, and then analyzing and identifying potential solutions for alleviating those barriers. So the way we organized these barriers is that we separated them into two main pillars. The first one being barriers that intervene at the decision-making level for homeowners mainly. So those will be types of barriers such as insufficient budget in terms of financial barriers, for instance. And this table is basically gives you a sort of overlook at all the barriers that we identified and then contextualized during the project within that category. So barrier typology on the left and then the barrier at the second column. This next slide is our second pillar or category, which are the barriers that prevent stakeholders taking part in the renovation process to intervene successfully or to implement successful business models. So we're talking about stakeholders such as architects, ESCOs, or construction companies, for instance. And the breakdown is the same. So as far as contextualization goes, what we did is basically we wanted to contextualize those identified barriers in the tables according to surveys where we would basically obtain feedback on the significance of those barriers from 1 to 5 by different stakeholders within the industry, which we were also able to segment in terms of the types of projects they worked on, the types of buildings they worked on, which regions they intervened in. So here is a breakdown of some of the responses or the sort of consolidated general responses that we can then break down a little bit more per typology, as we will do just after. We also used or created a database of case studies where we had a total of 53 case studies within this database. And here you can see which were the sort of recurring issues within those case studies as far as barrier typologies go. And then we also, of course, had direct interviews with our network of industry stakeholders to see what they could say. And the survey that we diffused was also had a section where they could give open-ended feedback, which wasn't necessarily only relevant towards rating the significance of the identified barriers. So in this presentation, to keep it short, we'll focus on the results in financial barrier typologies, structural shortcomings, regulatory shortcomings, and sort of split incentive issues. So as far as financial barrier typology, what we have here is basically the upper map in the left sort of corner is a general breakdown of the significance scores for the general financial barrier typology per country. Then on the right, that is the where our database or our case studies appeared where there were issues with finances. And then underneath that is a more sort of a breakdown of significance scores per barrier within this general typology. So to make it short, two of the most interesting trends that we were able to see was, of course, it's no surprise, the insufficient budgets of certain building owners. and also limited ability for a lot of ESCOs to obtain third-party financing for sort of energy performance contracts. Now, this is quite important in our opinion, as it could be a solution to the budgetary constraints of these building owners. And financing ESCOs and smaller scale EPCs could help stakeholders, for instance, social housing operators that have projects that might be of lower interest to larger ESCOs who actually have the funding capacity. So as far as offering solutions to that, what we saw is that generally in countries like Germany, for instance, these barriers were rated a little bit less significant. And we think that it might be due to the way the ESCOs are organized in associations, whereby they are given certifications and official qualification seals, where it might reduce the risk perception for banks to actually lend or finance certain smaller scale EPC contracts. As far as organizational and structural shortcomings, I'm going to try to go quickly as we're short on time. One of the main sort of barriers that we saw here was generally insufficient resources and complications for SMEs to participate in public EPC tendering contracts or tenders. So basically what we saw, and there's a high variance actually in how the significance of this barrier was rated. What we saw is that actually this variance was due to, we could observe sort of policy differences in terms of public tendering for energy services. Some countries where the allotment principle wasn't necessarily an obligation for EPC public tendering, they had rated the barrier as sort of more significant compared to countries where the allotment principle is an obligation. So obviously one of the solutions that we would see, for instance, for the integration of more SMEs within the market would be an obligation for public EPC tenders to be allotted or subdivided into lots, so that SMEs can sort of create groups where they combine their technical and financial sort of abilities together. In terms of regulatory barriers, one of the sort of common feedbacks that we got was through the basically through direct interviews and also the open-ended responses through the survey. A lot of companies, especially small to medium enterprises, have had to basically adapt their business models a lot due to sort of discontinuity in regulations. One of these examples would actually be in Spain with the sun tax that was actually just taken away the other day for self-production market, so opening the self-production market. And finally, in terms of one of the last sort of typologies that was quite significant in terms of our study was split incentives. So this is obviously something that's quite common all the time in barrier studies for the renovation market. The solutions that we envisioned at this stage was basically finding mechanisms so that energy performance certificates would actually have proper impacts on property value. And one way to do that we identified was basically regional rent indices, as is done, for instance, in Germany right now. So that's it for the presentation now, and look forward to potential questions after.
Many thanks, Hugo. So as we saw, most of the barriers are non-technical and rather related to financing and the structuration of the value chain. So building on this analysis and recommendations, our partner RINA then looked into innovative business model that can address those barriers. And so Lorenzo Dall'Oro from RINA will now present his work.
Thank you, Karine, for introducing me. Good afternoon at all. I'm going to present you the business models to finance the refurbishment of buildings and the related business cases and their analysis. The objective was to promote the implementation of innovative and original business models through Europe. This has been done, as you can see on the scheme on the right, basically starting setting the scenario, so analyzing what is going on in the scenario of business models across Europe and not only. This was based on the analysis of the barriers, in particular the market barriers coming from the work delivered in Work Package 4, and considering also the analysis of stakeholders' needs. Then, when currently used business models were identified, we identified the most promising ones, and for each of them, we selected real business cases of implementation. In parallel, we promote these promising business models through dissemination event, and in particular through our Renovation Hub. So first of all, we analyze the landscape of business models for building renovation for different types of stakeholders, and to be then validated through real cases of implementation. We create a business model database in order to identify replicable and adaptable models of business. The in-depth desktop analysis led to the selection of a limited number of basic families of business models, as reported in the next slide. We selected 4 main families of business models. The business models based on the one-stop shop concept, where an entity plays a central role among the players involved in the renovation. The business model based on product service systems, where an energy service company is involved. The business model based on new financing schemes, and finally the business models based on new and innovative revenue models. These are the 4 main families we identified, and for each of them we have a total of 19 business models, so-called subcategories, for which we identified the most innovative ones when they were available. Here we reported on this slide some examples of the analysis performed. So per each business models, we had a deep characterization available also on the Renovation Hub, based on the St. Gallen approach that analyze who, what, who, and why performs these specific business models. Starting from the business model selected, we selected the most promising ones based on 2 main parameters: the geographical coverage and the replicability for a single or more typology of buildings. This permitted us to select some most promising business models for each of the 4 areas in which we divided the European Union. These most promising business models are reported in the next slide. Okay, this one. Okay, so for each of the 4 areas of Europe, we selected some most promising business models. For each of them, we selected real cases of implementation, so where this business model has been used to perform a deep renovation project. We selected a total of 14 business cases, and the aim was to provide the most interesting features for the implementation and the achievement of business targets, to search for distinctive elements as well as common features among the business models, and finally understanding lesson learned and replicability for each of them. We analyzed the business cases at building level, at geographical level, and at business model level. At geographical level, you can have an overview on this slide. Seeing the map on the left, we have the 14 case studies analyzed and their position on the map. The scope was to evaluate external boundary conditions influencing the business model application and their geographical coverage. On the right, you have the external boundary conditions that were identified as the most important, influencing the deep retrofitting of buildings. Regarding the business cases analysis at building level, we identified some remarks regarding internal boundary conditions, and in particular building features and building typologies, and in how they are related to the renovation performed. Finally, we analyze the business cases at the business model level to analyze their application, the application of business model in real case studies, and evidences key features. In particular, we analyzed the one-stop shop based on public-private partnership, the one-stop shop provided by multidisciplinary team cooperation, and the one-stop shop based on the step-by-step approach. Other than one-stop shops, we identify as one of the most promising the energy performance contracting and the add-on business model. For each of them, we were able to extract some key indications that was common to different business cases under analysis. Finally, with a step, we were able to draw common key features that were common to all the cases, and in particular, the importance of a strong tenants engagement, as well as the engagement of building owners, the importance of economic incentive from European Union, local government, or loan, in particular to finance large-scale renovation projects, and finally, the importance of a strong attention to energy monitoring before and after retrofitting. So I invite you to have a look more in details to these outcomes also on the Renovation Hub, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Lorenzo. So I think you have seen most of the outcomes of our project, and as introduced at the beginning of the presentation, all the collected knowledge and analysis are packaged and presenting on our knowledge sharing platform. And Maeva from S2I will now present this platform that we call the Renovation Hub. Maeva, the floor is yours. Maeva, can you hear us? We cannot hear you. Well, I can't. Okay, so now it seems that we have an issue with Maeva's microphone. So maybe I can go through her slides while she tries to rejoin. Okay. Paulina, could you give me access to the slides? Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, Maeva, just let us know when you're back. Okay, so as I just mentioned, within Stunning, we made the choice to create a platform, which is a .eu platform. So it's in English. So it has a Europe-wide characteristic. The objective was here to have information that's easy to access and also easy to reuse, and then that we have also information from combined sources, so presenting refurbishment solutions, business models, and case studies in the same place. The other point as well we wanted to explore with this platform is to have a collaborative stakeholders community, so to enable stakeholders to register and to share their own content on this platform about the renovation topic, so that stakeholders will be able to provide information on their own refurbishment packages, on their business models they have tested or case studies they have implemented. Right. Sorry, just a logistical break. Paulina, could you? Apparently, Maeva is trying to speak, but she cannot manage to. Well, it's not working apparently. So maybe the issue is on your side with the portal. So if you could just check that. Okay. But so in the meantime, I will continue. So the Renovation Hub is a one place to link all information on different types of information, so on refurbishment solutions, case studies, business models, and barriers to replication. So I invite you to go on this platform and have a look there. And what is also interesting that you can navigate from one article to another. Okay, I'm just trying to switch slides here. Right, sorry. Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, sorry for this. I'm having difficulties with my slides. Okay, there we are. Okay, so what we try to do is really to design this platform so it will be useful for the registered stakeholders. So we are really open to any feedback you may have on how it is set up today, and if you see any way to improve it. But so this platform should enable you to gain visibilities beyond your current communities, to submit your own articles, to also suggest topics to be discussed, get in touch with other stakeholders, looking for synergies and so on. Maeva, are you back or shall I continue? Okay, so let's continue. Right, and finally, if you are registered to this platform, you can access the deliverables that have been written in the course of our project, so different deliverables, but also our final publications and some fact sheets. And we'll also put in this section the policy recommendations that we will develop based on the conclusions on the final event we had last week. Okay, if we could move one slide ahead, please. Right. Yeah, so sorry for this technical hiccup. If you have any question on the Renovation Hub, I invite you to contact us or Maeva, and we'll be able to answer you. But so now I will finish with my presentation and do just a quick wrap up. Okay, so I will finish with some key takeaways of all the work that we presented to you today. So, as said multiple times, most of the barriers to energy renovation are non-technical. Some of those barriers that are there at the level of the building owner and the user. They include, for instance, limited financing, uncertainty about real savings, the split incentives, but mostly I think the lack of information. Then you have barriers at the level of the construction sector with fragmentation and poor coordination. For SMEs and ESCO, for instance, lack of financial capabilities to implement energy efficiency services. And in some cases, especially when you are dealing with innovative solutions, lack of skills of subcontractors. So in order to allow the massification of renovation, successful refurbishment services should be developed in a more systematic, integrated and user-centered approach from design to operation. So they have to cover the whole value chain and valorizing non-energy benefits. They should be combined with training activities to build up the skills of all the workers and contractors that are involved, be implemented in a coordinated approach, and finally be supported by innovative business models and smart financing. So those innovative business models and smart financing are really required to support and accelerate the deep renovation. So further, they are needed because smart financing will help to move risk and financial burden from owners to more institutional actors such as investors and banks. But also these innovative business models should better account for non-energy benefits. So what needs to be taken into account by those? First, as I said already, to be user-centered, then to move from pains to gains, so focus more attention on the multiple benefits of energy renovation. Renovation is not just about saving energy, it's also about improving comfort, health, also in some cases, accessibility to the dwelling, and for elderly people, to redesign the dwelling in such a way that people can better age at home. Then collaboration models should be developed at all levels with a partnership between manufacturers, but also involvement of third parties that will finance the project with banks, ESCOs, and last point, raise awareness. This is, I think, really key. Targeted communication, especially for the residential sector, for single family houses owners, is really a key point that should be addressed. So now what we reviewed in our project led to the conclusion that innovative business models already exist. They have been successfully deployed in some countries, in particular one-stop shop approaches. So there are a lot of innovative components that can be reused and replicated. Some barriers remain. For instance, for one-stop shops in particular, the sustainability of these business models without subsidies, it's still complicated. So there is a question mark on how to generate and ramp up the demand to reach mass market and economies of scale. And it's after reaching this mass market that the one-stop shop will be sustainable in the future. So here again, communication is key for better visibility, also to increase trust, to make people aware that there are non-energy benefits to renovation. Then finding the right timing is also a key point of those business models. They should focus on market segments where there is, for instance, a change in life. When people they buy a house, they get retired, they have a new child. That can be trigger to launch a new renovation project. Then business models must be tailored to each market subsegment. One business model is not a fit for all business model. It's hard to find such business model if we want to cover all typologies of buildings, all types of ownerships, from private owned houses to condominiums or to public buildings. Multiple business models must be used. And then last point, for the scaling up and replication to other countries, here, as Lorenzo presented, some business model will be better suited than others because their replication will depend on the legal and fiscal context and on the market readiness as well. So I think I'm almost finished. Yeah. Lorenzo presented 20 business models that were identified in Stunning. Different business models can be combined to increase robustness. For example, a one-stop shop business model could be combined with a business model with innovative financing. So it's really about finding the ideal recipe to build a robust business model. And finally, about the refurbishment packages themselves, so really the refurbishment technologies. The way they are designed and sold and combined must be tailored to the business model and the customer segments. For instance, if a step-by-step approach is implemented, then adaptable and modular packages will be better suited. For the energy-strong business model or the add-on business model, prefabrication may be more adequate. And finally, those refurbishment technologies should be combined with the improvement of accessibility, comfort, and aging at home. Right, so that was my concluding slides. Sorry again for the technical issues we encountered in this webinar. So as I said, if you have any question about what was presented, especially on the Renovation Hub, since Maeva was not able to present it, you are welcome to contact us. You can also register on our Renovation Hub, which will continue. And so we expect your support, as already mentioned. By registering to the Renovation Hub, you can publish your own success story or renovation case. So please get in touch with us. Right, so now we'll try to address your questions. We received a lot of questions, so I'm not sure we'll be able to address them all in the time we have left. We first have a question for Haitham of CSTB. Could you please explain how you gathered the 350 cases? What helped you collecting these? Thanks.
Yeah, concerning data for these 372 or 73 projects in the database, so the sources data are different. For example, many of the projects are provided by internal sources data from CSTB and from some partners of CSTB data. So we have data provided by some official sources, like governmental agency. And in the same project, we didn't find all data needed, for example, to establish, to implement the cost-benefit analysis. For example, if we have the price, the energy price, and we didn't have the energy gain, it's not possible to obtain the monetary gain and to implement the cost-benefit analysis. So the most of the data are provided by our data collect process by using our own data on the CSTB survey, and other data are provided by our partner in the Stunning project. For example, for Spanish cases and German cases and Italian cases, it was provided by our partner. And the macroeconomic data is provided by our research concerning inflation rate of energy, for example, or energy prices or national discount rate. So main of the variable concerning the project, the specificity of building and technology characteristic parameters are provided by our data and by partner data. And for macroeconomic indicator, it was the result of our own research across the different European country according to each specific national project.
Haytham, there is a complementary question on this one for the tertiary sector. What is the composition of the sample? So that the example that were sent by the other partners, was it mostly private offices, public building, health buildings, or a mix of all these?
So it was a mix of all this, and the information that we have used in what we observed in all these tertiary sector cases, as I presented in the work package 3 presentation. So at first, to give an answer, yes, it was a mix of all this. We find a lack of quality data on this, specifically in the energy prices or in the incentives that it was implemented in this case. But what we observe in this in the result of the profitability of these cases, that they are not profitable only they are not profitable if we consider only the energy gain. But this project was implemented. So as what Hugo indicated in his presentation, we think that there is a rise in the property value coming from rental prices or for coming from selling prices in the end of the contract of the project.
Okay, I have another question for you. I think all the questions are for you actually. Yeah, so in the table you shown at the end, the cost of for the two solutions package were cheaper than for the individual solution. Is it related to the type of solutions that were implemented in both cases, or can you provide more details on this?
Yes, exactly. It's depend of the type of solution. In general, what we have observed in all the solution and all the packages mix, they were mixed about 3 or 4, globally 3 or 4 solutions. Internal insulation, floor insulation, for example, and roof insulation. The second solution that it was represented is heating system. And the third one, it was windows replacement. So what we observed that in the main cases, the packages was composed by the mix of these 3 solutions. So it's sure, it's what the result we obtained. It's sure that sometimes a mix of 2 solutions is the cost of a mix of 2 solutions is lower than the one with one solution in some case. But the majority of the work package uses these 3 mix of solutions: floor and roof insulation, external door insulation, heating system replacement, and window replacement.
Okay. Then there is a question that maybe I can try to answer. What have been the main issues, obstacles concerning performance gap, simulation versus reality? So just to clarify on the samples we reviewed in terms of renovation cases, so the data we use, it's the theoretical consumption. It's what is designed for the renovation, not the real consumption afterwards, after the renovation, because we don't have access to such data. Unless, wait, don't know, Adam, if you want to add something.
Yes, exactly. For some case studies, we have the right consumption after, but in the main case study,
Aitam, we lost you. Hello. Aitam, well, unfortunately, yeah, okay, we lost you at some point. So you were saying that in most cases.
In most cases, yeah, in the most cases, it was theoretical differences between consumption before and after, but in some few cases, it was the real consumption measures. It was in this specific case, which is not a lot. This specific case have obtained incentives from the government, so it's there is an obligation to prove that the renovation packages used will obtain the gain that we have supposed to obtain in order to obtain the incentives. So there is a minimum gain in these cases, but it was only a few projects. But for the main project in the database, it was differences between the label performance before and label performance after, and it was in general a theoretical estimation.
Okay, thanks, Aitam. And final question for you: how do you estimate the maintenance costs for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning applications?
Maintenance cost, Karin, or investment cost?
No, maintenance cost.
In these cases, we don't have estimate the maintenance cost because there is no information about that. The main cost that it was in the database was the investment cost. But the model that we have built, it's possible to add, if you get this information, it's possible to add the maintenance cost or replacement cost at any years of the period analysis. It could be in the beginning of, in the middle of, in the last years. It's possible to implement and to introduce this cost, and the model is possible to estimate it. But in all the cases we have collected in our WP3 in this database, there is no information about maintenance or replacement cost. But the model could implement it if the database is if data about that cost become available.
Okay, thank you. Right, so other questions we had. Okay, so do you think that the 2050 objective to have every single building carbon neutral could be cost optimal? This ambition level goes probably much further than the cost optimal level. Well, to be honest, we haven't really studied this specific aspect. Then I would say that with the ambition and latest objective of the Commission in terms of positive energy district, I think the focus now is more on building blocks and districts rather than individual buildings. It's true that our project was focusing on the building scale, but in terms of optimization of for energy efficiency and reaching cost optimum, indeed the building block and districts are much more adequate in terms of scale. So I hope this answers the question. I think now we'll take the last question that we received. Have you taken into account the smart financing for smart building initiative of the European Commission in your assessment? To be honest, I don't think we have, not at this stage. About smart financing, we had been in touch with a DEEP platform on de-risking investment for energy efficiency to look for potential synergies. But apart from that, the smart financing for smart building, no, it's not taken into account in our assessments. Right, I'm afraid we are running a bit late and we received a lot of questions, so we won't be able to address them all. But the slides will be available on BuildUp portal in any case. And then please feel free to contact us. You have my contact details here, so you can contact me to discuss any question you may have on our project, also our final publication is out, presenting and synthesizing our key results, especially on business models. So please feel free to have a look and to download it from our Renovation Hub. Yeah, and then really please feel free to give me a call if you wish to discuss anything further. Thanks a lot for your attention, and thanks to all our speakers for presenting their work today. And I hope for all our participants that this session was useful. Thank you.